Shikues të televizionit të Syri, mirëmbrëma, po takohemi edhe me një edicion të ri të emisionit të Sytë Katër. Suedia hin në mesin e 5 vendeve që kanë kontribuar më së shumti me fonde në zhvillimin dhe rindërtimin e Kosovës që nga pas lufta. Shumë projekte janë realizuar në fushën e trashëgimisë kulturore, pastaj në atë të zhvillimit ekonomik dhe të tjera. Njëherët ky vend mban tash presidencën e rradhës së Bashkimit Evropian në kohën kur janë shtuar përpjekjet për arritjen e një marrëveshjeje midis Kosovës dhe Serbisë. Si dhe çështje tjera që pritet gjatë kësaj kohe të trajtohen, siç është aplikimi i Kosovës për anëtarësim në Bashkimin Evropian dhe procesi i liberalizimit të vizave. Për këto dhe çështje tjera do të flasim sonte në kuadër të emisionit Sytë Katër me ambasadorin e Suedisë në Kosovë, Jonas Westerlund. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Mr. Ambassador, today you visited the village of Novosela, where the house of Saint Teresa's mother was restored through Swedish funds, an important object of cultural heritage for our community in this region. Can you tell us more about this investment, but also others that you have invested in our region?
Well, Mother Teresa is a well-known figure across the world, of course. When I grew up in the 1970s, she was a very well-known figure and inspired all of us. So I'm very pleased to have seen her mother's house here in the region in Novosel. Well, this is part of the Swedish contribution to the cultural heritage without borders. And the aim is to restore many of the cultural heritage here in Kosovo. And that's important not only because of the buildings in itself, but also for historic reasons, for the community. And many of these buildings are also will also be turned into community buildings. So you will have the community come in and have the chance to meet at those buildings. So I was thrilled to have seen the building today.
Yeah, Sweden is the 5th donor in Kosovo since the end of the war. The projects have been mainly oriented towards economic development and cultural heritage. What are the projects that are currently being developed in Kosovo through the Swedish funds?
Well, as you said, we are the 5th largest donor to Kosovo. We provide 13 million euros per year to Kosovo. It's part of our 7-year strategy. The focus is on democracy and human rights, economic development, on sustainable environment, and on inclusive and peaceful talks. So quite a wide range of sectors, but it's really focusing on safeguarding the environment, and to create jobs. That is the sort of main priority for us.
How do you see the situation of democracy and human rights in Kosovo? You have been here before the war and after the war, and now you're back here as ambassador. How do you see the situation of human rights and democracy? Is it an improvement in these areas?
Well, I mean, first of all, I was difficult to find myself around in Pristina because I did not recognize all the buildings. There's so many new buildings. So it's really a big change. As I said before, in northern Kosovo, sadly, it's not been so many improvements. I remember walking across the bridge in Mitrovica in 1999, and now I walked across the bridge again after 23 years, and I'm a bit disappointed, I must say, that Kosovo and the international community and Serbia have not been able to progress much on this. When it comes to human rights and democracy, this is one of the most stable democratic states in the Western Balkans, in these parts of Europe, in fact. So you've done extremely well as a young nation on the democratic reforms and stability. Then there are a number of areas which the European Union's annual report would emphasize when it comes to rule of law and judicial reform, that you still have some more progress to be made. But overall, you are a very democratic, stable state. You should be very proud of that fact.
I will ask you about gender equality. Do you think that it is made the progress in this case in
I
Kosovo?
certainly believe that as well. You may know that we just had the famous football player Kosovari Asllani here last week, and she made a comment that there are many things that Kosovo would need to improve, but when it comes to general equality, you have progressed quite far, I would say. And I tend to agree with that. You are quite far when it comes to general equality. Look at the parliament, look at the number of ministers in this country. Then there are other issues like domestic violence, for example, that needs to be fought, and the statistics needs to be improved.
Despite the good relation between Kosovo and Sweden, there are still a low trade balance between the two countries. How can this be improved?
Yes, it's really minuscule, the trade between Kosovo and Serbia, and I don't really know Kosovo and Sweden. I don't really know why the trade is so small, and that's part of my mandate to improve that. I looked into the figures for this, and the trade between Sweden and Kosovo is larger than San Marino, but less than Liechtenstein. Two quite small nations in Europe. So we have a lot of things to do here. I think there are lots of areas where we can work together. In particular on wood processing and furniture industries. I think you have a lot of forestry here. I think 40% of Kosovo is covered by forests, and we have Sweden is covered by 71% of forests. So we have something in common there. So that's one way. So I'm attempting to persuade Swedish companies in the wood processing and the furniture industry to start production here, or at least subcontract production to companies here in Kosovo.
And how can this situation change? Maybe it's better if we have one chamber, economic chamber, Swedish businesses here, like we have an American chamber, or...
Well, that's a good suggestion. I have also noticed that we have a very productive U.S. Kosovo chamber. We have also a Swiss Chamber of Commerce, and we also have an Austrian Chamber of Commerce, and a German Business Association here as well. So I'm exploring options for this, and I think either we'll have a Swedish Chamber of Commerce, or perhaps a Nordic Chamber of Commerce. So I'm working together with the Norwegian and the Finnish embassies in Pristina to see whether we can start a Nordic Chamber of Commerce. I think that will attract businesses here.
Which is your opinion about doing business in Kosovo? What needs to be improved in order for Swedish companies to invest in Kosovo?
Well, I think you have a quite lucrative business environment here already. You have a low labor cost, you have very low taxes. So I think Kosovo could be a sort of Singapore of Southeast Europe in that sense. And there are two trends right now in the world economy. The first one is that European companies are moving their production from China back to Europe. And that is due to the challenges within all the sort of logistical challenges that we have had in the world. So they need to have closer to the factories. The second point is that many Swedish companies had production in Russia and Ukraine. And due to Russia's aggression against Ukraine, they are looking into new markets in Eastern Europe and moving some of those productions to Poland and Czech Republic. And I see no reason why those Swedish companies could not start production here in Kosovo.
Yeah. What is the function of Kosovo Credit Guarantee Fund, which is supported by Sweden? And how much has it influenced in the development of businesses in Kosovo?
Well, the Kosovo Credit Guarantee Fund is a very sophisticated fund in the sense that we do provide some financial support to it, but the whole idea is that we guarantee money to some of the, let's say, local banks. So we help the banks here in Kosovo to give out loans to small and medium enterprises here in Kosovo. So if for some reason those loans cannot be paid back, we will then pay those back to the bank. So we are guaranteeing the banks that they will get the money back. So it's quite a brilliant system, and it has already created 20,000 jobs. And loans have already been given out to 8,000 small and medium enterprises in Kosovo. That's quite a large number of companies involved in this. So to me, this is a success story.
Let's talk about the political issues. The international community is pressuring Kosovo and Serbia to reach an agreement within the dialogue facilitated by the European Union. Sweden holds presidency of the European Union. Do you expect such an agreement to be reached within these 6 months?
Well,
during the Swedish presidency?
The EU envoy, Mr. Lajčák, he's of course in charge of this, so it's not the EU presidency who is dealing with this. I just want to make that point clear to everyone and all of your viewers as well, right? So Mr. Lajčák is traveling both to Pristina and to Belgrade, and he has now invited the Prime Minister of Kosovo and the President of Serbia to come to Brussels at the end of February to have new discussions.
What do you expect about discussions?
Well, I think there are a possibility for the two capitals to come to an agreement on the so-called Franco-German plan. There, I think there is a possibility. Now, that plan is more of a framework. It's not the end normalization treaty. It's a framework for continued negotiations. But I certainly believe that there is a chance this spring.
Serbian part is insisting that the association with Serbian municipalities to be formed before the agreement. But the Kosovo part is saying that this can be formed during the implementation of final agreement. How do you think that this process will go? Which part will make a compromise on this? Well,
we'll have to see what happens during the meeting in Brussels on that, I guess. But the EU position and the US position, I believe, on this is that the Association of Serbian Municipalities needs to be established, because that's part of what previous governments have promised, not only promised but agreed to. So we can't really have a negotiation where you do not fulfill previous obligations, because then we have to start all over again from square one. So, but let's focus on the Franco-German proposal. I think that's the key right now, right? And then you will have a framework to the negotiations. But quite clearly, Sweden's position is also that this association of Serbian municipalities needs to be established.
The visa liberalization process for Kosovo citizens has moved forward in recent months. What will be the actions of Sweden as the country that holds the rotation presidency of the EU for moving forward this process? Even that now is a case of European Parliament. The presidency don't have anything on this, but how you see this process going forward, upcoming months?
This has already been discussed among the member states, right? And we have now passed on the discussions to the European Parliament, and it's now up to the European Parliament to discuss this, and I believe that the members of the European Parliament are quite meticulous with the fact that they want to make an independent decision on this. But I will go as far as to say that it is looking very positive that the European Parliament, and as far as I have seen among the discussions, it's looking very promising that they will be making a decision on this, and a favorable decision on this this spring. And that means that we would have at the latest visa liberalization at the no later than 1st of January 2024. And I know how important this is for the population in Kosovo. I met so many people who cannot travel outside Kosovo, in particular in sports. Maybe the elite athletes can travel abroad, but the more, in the younger generations, they cannot travel abroad, and then simply it's very difficult to progress if you cannot take part of the competitions in Europe.
And for the end, Kosovo has officially applied for EU membership. How is Sweden handling this issue as it holds the rotation presidency of the EU?
Yeah, no, that's a very important issue during our EU presidency. As we all know, Kosovo handed in its application to the Czech presidency on 15th of November. It's now in the hands of the Swedish EU presidency. We are undertaking consultations with all EU member states in Brussels at the moment. The main question is whether or not we should hand over the application to the European Commission or not for their assessment. And that's really up to all the EU member states. So we will be, as the presidency, we'll have to take into account all member states' view on this. We have to relate to the fact that there are a number of countries which has not recognized Kosovo. That's also part of the calculations. But we are undertaking consultations, and we'll have to make a decision during the spring to see how we'll proceed with this issue.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Shikues të dashur, ndo që të intervistën me ambasadorin e Suedisë në Kosovë, Jonas Westerlund. Shihemi javën tjetër në kuadër të emisionit të Sytë Katër në televizionin Syri.